The US Department of State has recently designated the Resistance Front or TRF as a foreign terrorist organization and a specially designated global terrorist. This decision comes after TRF's involvement in the April 22 Pahalgam terror attack, which killed 26 innocent people, mostly tourists. This tragic event sent shockwaves around the world. India welcomed the US government's move, but how did Pakistan react to this? Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Unman Bhattacharya, and today we take a closer look at Pakistan's response to this decision and what it reveals about Islamabad's stance on terrorism. So what is the TRF and where did it come from? The Resistance Front or TRF first appeared in October 2019, just months after India revoked Article 370, which granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir. Initially, it was portrayed as an indigenous resistance group, but investigations soon revealed that it was actually a rebranded faction of Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba or LET with strong ties to Pakistan's military and the Inter-Services Intelligence or ISI. TRF often uses secular names and logos to conceal its true nature, helping it avoid international attention and scrutiny. Since its formation, TRF has been linked to several high-profile attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. One of its most notable attacks was in June 2024 when it targeted Hindu pilgrims in the Riyasi bus bombing. Between 2020 and 2023, the group was involved in multiple grenade attacks, ambushes, and targeted killings. In January 2023, India's Ministry of Home Affairs officially declared TRF a terrorist organization under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Since then, it has evolved into one of the most active hybrid terrorist proxies in North Kashmir. TRF's activities focus primarily on targeted civilian killings, attacks on off-duty security personnel, arms drops, and digital threats, often coordinated through encrypted messaging platforms. The group operates heavily online through rotating accounts on Telegram, X, and Signal using VPNs and the TOR network to protect their activities. Its posts, including martyrdom posters, attack claims, and counter-narratives, reflect a communication style closely aligned with the broader tactics of Pakistan's ISI. Now, the US designation of TRF as a terrorist group has significant implications. It freezes any US assets linked to the group and makes it illegal for the US entities to provide support. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio described TRF as a front-end proxy for Lashkar-e-Taiba, further reinforcing the connection between the two groups. In its statement, the US State Department specifically pointed to the TRF's role in the Pahalgam terror attack, calling it the deadliest civilian attack in India since the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks carried out by the LET. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar hailed the US move as a strong affirmation of India-US counterterrorism cooperation. Now let's hear from the family members of the victims who lost their lives in the Pahalgam terror attack.
जो उस आतंकी संगठन को आतंकवादी संगठन घोषित किया गया है, तो मैं तो इसके लिए ये कहूंगा कि पाकिस्तान को ही आतंकवादी राष्ट्र घोषित करना चाहिए। पूरी दुनिया को आतंकवाद के खिलाफ होना चाहिए। आतंकवाद का दर्द सिर्फ हमारे हिंदुस्तान ने नहीं झेला है, उस अमेरिका ने भी झेला है आतंकवाद का दर्द, और संपूर्ण दुनिया आतंकवाद से लड़ रही है। संपूर्ण विश्व के बड़े नेताओं को एक होकर के आतंकवाद के जन्मदाता, आतंकवाद को पोषित करने वाले पाकिस्तान को आतंकवादी राष्ट्र घोषित करना चाहिए।
जो ये दरिंदा ये लोग हैं जो
These extremists who kill these innocent people should be banned completely. They should be eliminated to prevent deaths of innocent people like Adil and other 26 tourists. We are happy that it has been designated as foreign terrorist organization.
इन लोगों को बेगुनाह मारा जाए, जैसे आदिल की मौत या और 26 लोगों की मौत।
So what has Pakistan's reaction been to this designation? Pakistan's foreign ministry initially responded by claiming that the investigation into the Pahalgam attack was still inconclusive. However, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq took the defense of TRF to a whole new level. In a session of Pakistan's parliament, Dar rejected the accusations against TRF and even went so far as to claim that Pakistan used its diplomatic influence to ensure that TRF's name wasn't directly mentioned in the UN Security Council's statement condemning the attack. Dar's remarks did not stop there. He argued that Pakistan does not consider TRF illegal and demanded proof that TRF was responsible for the Pahalgam attack. This reaction clearly highlights Pakistan's double standards when it comes to terrorism. While Pakistan often claims to be a frontline state against terrorism and promotes its supposed zero-tolerance policy towards terror, its actions often tell a different story. The active defense of a group like TRF, one that is essentially a proxy for a United Nations designated terror group like LET, reveals a deep hypocrisy. This is not the first time Pakistan has been linked to terrorism. For decades, Pakistan has supported and sponsored terror groups targeting India. The strategy has been consistent. When one group faces international pressure or is banned, another one emerges under a different name, but with the same people and objectives. TRF is just the latest example of this tactic. In a sense, it is a rebranded version of Lashkar-e-Taiba, continuing the same violent agenda under a new identity. Indian intelligence agencies are well aware of this pattern and are closely monitoring efforts by Pakistan to rename TRF once again to continue its proxy war in Kashmir. So who are the leaders of TRF? The man at the top of TRF is Sheikh Sajjad Gul, also known as Sajjad Ahmad Sheikh. He is a senior commander of Lashkar-e-Taiba with a history of involvement in several terror attacks. India's National Investigation Agency, NIA, has placed a 10 lakh rupees bounty on his head, but he is believed to be sheltered in Rawalpindi, Pakistan, under the protection of the ISI. The US designation of TRF as a terrorist organization is a significant diplomatic win for India. It is a clear message to the world that Pakistan's support for terrorism is not only a regional concern, but a global one. However, the battle against these terror groups is far from over. As long as Pakistan continues to offer safe havens, material support and strategic backing to these rebranded terrorist groups, the threat to regional and global peace will remain ever present. This latest move shines a light on the ongoing challenges in the fight against terrorism, but the road to lasting peace will require more than just designations. It will require action. This was Kabul Airport in August 2021. Afghans clinging on to this US Air Force flight's wheel, far too desperate to leave the country after Taliban's takeover. Then the plane takes off and people hanging on to it fall to their death. It's been nearly 4 years since such heartbreaking scenes played out. This August, the Taliban regime completes 4 years in power. And now the question is, 4 years on, is the Taliban regime's international isolation easing gradually? Let's connect the dots. Afghanistan's Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi meeting Russia's ambassador to Afghanistan, Dmitry Zhirnov, in Kabul. The meeting comes after Russia accepted the credentials of a new ambassador of Afghanistan. This makes Russia the first nation to recognize the Taliban government of Afghanistan. Listen to Taliban's foreign minister hailing Russia's decision.
First of all, we appreciate the initiative of the Russian Federation in recognizing the IEA. We value this courageous step taken by Russia, and God willing, it will serve as an example for others as well.
The change of status was evident on the facade of the Afghan embassy in Moscow. Here, the flag of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan replaced the state symbol of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. The Russian Foreign Ministry said in a statement that Moscow saw good prospects to develop ties and would continue to support Kabul in security, counterterrorism, and combating drug crime. It also saw significant trade and economic opportunities, especially in energy, transport, agriculture, and infrastructure. Russia's official recognition of the Taliban government is significant because no other country has formally recognized the Taliban government that seized power in August 2021 as US-led forces staged a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan after 20 years of war, though China, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan and Pakistan have all designated ambassadors to Kabul, which is being seen as a step towards recognition. India has a technical team in Afghanistan which oversees humanitarian assistance. In November 2024, the Taliban regime appointed Ikramuddin Kamil as acting consul in the Afghan mission in Mumbai. Afghans in Kabul are welcoming Russia's decision.
When others recognize us the way Russia has, trade will improve, life will get better, and people will be able to travel from one place to another freely. Relations between countries will strengthen. Nothing good comes from war. War only brings destruction.
The Russian move is a major milestone for the Taliban administration that wants to ease its international isolation. Washington is believed to be closely watching the Russia-Afghanistan engagement as it has frozen billions in Afghanistan's central bank assets and enforced sanctions on some senior leaders in the Taliban. This had contributed to Afghanistan's banking sector being largely cut off from the international financial system. But the Russian move was not a bolt from the blue, because Russia has been gradually building relations with the Taliban. Since 2022, Afghanistan has been importing gas, oil and wheat from Russia. And last year, Russian President Vladimir Putin had said that the Taliban was now an ally in fighting terrorism. Remember, in 2003, the Taliban was outlawed by Russia as a terrorist organization. But Russia's Supreme Court removed the ban in April this year. This paved the way for Russia to formally recognize the Taliban government in Afghanistan. So why has Russia been warming up to the Taliban regime of late? Russia sees a need to work with Kabul as it faces a major security threat from Islamist terror groups based in a number of countries from Afghanistan to West Asia. In March 2024, Russia was rocked by a massive terror attack when gunmen killed 149 people at a concert hall outside Moscow. That attack was claimed by the Islamic State. US officials had said that they had intelligence indicating it was Islamic State Khorasan, the Afghan branch of ISIS, that was responsible. If the Taliban regime were to be believed, it is helping Russia on the security front, as it says it is working to wipe out the presence of Islamic State in Afghanistan. But there are more reasons why both the sides are expanding their engagement. The Russian decision to recognize the Taliban government also needs to be seen in a larger geopolitical context that includes the war in Ukraine and its many fallouts. The Ukraine war is draining Russia, and it is also facing immense pressure due to its economic isolation by the US and the West. So Russia is looking to win another ally in the Taliban regime by building economic and military ties with it. Afghanistan stands to gain too. The Afghan economy has been devastated by decades of war, and trade is seen as a win-win by both sides. Bilateral trade reached $1 billion in 2024 and is set to reach $3 billion by 2025. At the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in June, Russia announced an expansion of its labor market to include Afghan specialists. Afghanistan needs investments, but in the absence of international recognition, attracting investments has been a challenge for the Taliban regime. In May 2025, Afghanistan agreed to join the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, a project of the Belt and Road Initiative of China, but Beijing remains reluctant to invest in Afghanistan. The only known major Chinese investment is the $49 million that Xinjiang Central Asia Petroleum and Gas Company has spent on developing oil fields near Herat. The question now is, how much of the huge investment gap in Afghanistan will Russia be keen to fill now? The relationship between Russia and the Taliban regime also needs to be seen in the historical context. Russia has a complex and blood-stained history in Afghanistan. Soviet troops invaded the country in December 1979 to prop up a communist government, but became bogged down in a long war against Mujahideen fighters armed by the United States. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev pulled his army out in 1989, by which time some 15,000 Soviet soldiers had been killed. So Moscow has historically had deep strategic stakes in Afghanistan, and its decision is rooted in the current geopolitical context in Asia and beyond. As far as India is concerned, over the years it has invested more than $3 billion in projects like the Afghan Parliament, the Salma Dam and the Zaranj-Delaram Highway, which links Afghanistan to Iran's Chabahar port. India has built hospitals, schools and offered thousands of scholarships to students. More than 3,000 Afghan students, including 300 girls, are studying in India. As a result of its humanitarian aid and development assistance, India retains significant goodwill among large sections of the Afghan population. India has a shared history, old civilizational ties, cultural bonds, and deep economic and strategic stakes in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is crucial for the Connect Central Asia policy that India launched in 2015. Crucially, the Afghanistan government has condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and stressed on the need for accountability. This simply means that the Taliban regime stands by India against cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan and remains a relevant partner in tackling this menace. A calibrated strategic engagement with the Taliban driven by pragmatism is in India's interest. One can expect a gradual yet cautious transition in ties, but the key here lies in how the Taliban regime handles matters sensitive to India in future. As far as the larger question of international recognition is concerned, it looks like a distant dream of the Taliban regime. Western diplomats say the Taliban's path towards wider international recognition is blocked until it changes course on women's rights. Remember, the Taliban has closed high schools and universities to girls and women and placed restrictions on their movement without a male guardian. It is at odds with the international community when it says that it respects women's rights in line with its strict interpretation of Islamic law. Taliban's international isolation may not end anytime soon, as it still needs to win the trust of the international community through its actions. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you in the next episode with more raging issues. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Munmun Bhattacharya signing off. Take care and stay safe.